Reagan News.
Words in the morning in America, as Reagan would say.
Today's topic, 1980 to 1992, the resurgence of conservatism.
But first, something for the children.
Over to you, Ross.
Now for story time with Ross Lancaster.
Yay!
Hello! I didn't see you there. Today's story, how the magical actor from California slays the dangerous peanut farmer. It started way back in the mystical time of 1980. The new right denounced the activist government and failed social engineering of the 1960s. They championed the common man against the big, dastardly national government. That's right, kids. They tried to take everything that we had. But then, the mystical Reagan used his magical neoconservative powers to fight for free market capitalism against the Soviets and to question the ridiculous welfare. The result was a massive victory for our hero Ronald Reagan in the election of 1980. And kids, remember the moral of the story. Your ABCs. Anything but Carter.
Wait, this just in. There's been a revolution. A Reagan revolution. The caliber of this new president even caused the Iranians to release their American hostages after 444 days on his inauguration. Reagan is blasting into office with a new point of view. The government isn't fixing the problems, it is the problem. Oh, snap! He's promising to dismantle the welfare state to its core and take aim at the bloated federal government. The country is heated over 4 decades of social programs, triggering budget cuts of over $35 billion. He is so on target that even Democrats, nicknamed boll weevils, were willing to take a bullet for him. In other news, the president was shot, but there's an estimated recovery time of 12 days. And now to Matt with the military situation.
Hello, my name is Matt. I am the Chief Military Correspondent for Channel 40 News. I am here with an important update about the battle of the budget. At the front lines, bombs have created huge craters in the tax laws, with reductions up to 25%, and have been dropping for the past 3 years. There have also been many casualties, including big banks in the auto industry, which are getting killed by the Japanese. Our plan of attack had been supply-side economics, attempting to boost our economy with budget discipline and tax reductions. Led by our fearless leader, Ronald Reagan, these policies have been implemented across the entire military force. At first, it was under heavy fire with recession, but after 3 years, we have finally achieved victory at the small price of income gaps, leaving behind yippies. These yippies are young urban professionals who represent military possessions in the pursuit of wealth. A mere $2 trillion was spent in military, resulting in only about $200 billion added to the deficit each year, making America the biggest borrower since the 1980s. And now we're over to Ross with the weather.
I'm here, on the scene, with the real weather, outside. And it's getting chilly out here with the Cold War anti-Soviet sentiment. Reagan's getting heated and only willing to negotiate while in a position of overwhelming strength. He created a massive storm of military spending, which he is sure will rain on the Soviets' parade, as they cannot match his thunder. The aftershock was a new arms race and Reagan's strategic defense initiative. The temperatures dropped as the USSR used martial law to freeze solidarity in Poland, and Reagan called for economic sanctions on both countries. After the Soviet lightning struck down a Korean passenger airline, Reagan cut off arms negotiations with Russia. Finally, things reached absolute zero when Russian athletes boycotted the Olympics in Los Angeles. And now, our sponsors look to the stars.
Do you like lasers? Because I like lasers. Do you like missiles? I don't. Introducing the Strategic Defense Initiative. You may know it as Star Wars. These orbiting battle stations will create an astrodome around U.S. cities by vaporizing nuclear missiles before they can hit. Not today! Now, for only 11 easy payments of $250 million, it can be yours! Call now, and we will include a free Astrodome for the same price! Scientists say it's impossible, but that's just what the Soviet would say. Results may vary.
Warning, this system probably doesn't even work. In fact, we're pretty sure it's not impossible, so it's business regard this message.
Tension is stirring in the Middle East. Israel is allowing more settlement on the Jordan River's west bank and has invaded Lebanon. They are looking to subdue the Palestinian resistance, but are leaving Lebanon in chaos. Reagan has sent peacekeeping forces, but he was forced to withdraw after a suicide bombing on the Marine barracks. This is causing the Democrats to call him a Teflon president, because nothing can stick or stain his reputation. But there's also trouble in Central America. The radical Sandinistas in Nicaragua continue to gain power. After Carter tried to ignore them, Reagan shoots back, pow pow, causing them of turning their country into a military base for the Soviets. As the radicals continue to arm revolutionaries in El Salvador, Reagan has been forced to send military aid. In addition, he continues to send troops to help maintain stability in the Caribbean, almost like he has a big stick. Now, time for some street interviews with men.
This is On the Streets, where we demand answers from innocent strangers about highly personal questions. Hey, you over there, get over here before I make you. Feelings, election, go.
Well, Reagan was spurred on to victory against Democrat Walter Mondale and the first ever woman on a major presidential party ticket, Geraldine Ferraro, through the extreme popularity of his economic and foreign policies. This, and Mondale's poor reputation from his time as Carter's vice president, gave Reagan 525 electoral votes to Mondale's 13, and Reagan had a massive victory in the popular vote.
Okay, leave. Let's go look for some more people. You there! Gorbachev, policies, what do you think, huh? Let's go. We don't have all day.
Well, I believe that the new Soviet leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, is instituting two new fine policies. First, Glasnost is a real improvement from the past because it is introducing more free speech to the Soviet public. Also, Perestroika is attempting to introduce free market practices. I mean, that's whoa! And that's another major improvement. Gorbachev knows that he needs to focus on home and end the Cold War. The INF Treaty even bans all intermediate-range nuclear missiles from Europe. The 4 summit meetings between Reagan and Gorbachev have truly helped to calm down the Cold War to a warm conclusion.
Okay, bye. This has been On the Streets with Matt, and now over to Ross Lancaster for sports.
This is Toss Lancaster with Channel 40 Sports. The Muslim extremists in Lebanon start their charge for victory by seizing more Americans. At the same time, the Sandinista government strengthened its championship team in Nicaragua. Reagan attempts to get Congress to fund his secret play, but they block his shot. But Reagan isn't down for the count. He sees a possible link of play between the Middle East and Nicaragua. Oh! The diplomats run a sneak play and arrange for secret arms sales to the Iranians in exchange for help in releasing American hostages. And then they pass the payment of the arms to the Contras. Who could see this coming? I couldn't. But there's a flag on the play. It has violated the congressional ban on military aid to Nicaragua. Coach Reagan says his players made the play on the fly without his consent. But the officials condemn him for deception and disdain of the law. Touchdown!
And now for our exclusive interview with Ronald Reagan. Mr. President, it is an honor to have you here with us tonight. And now for some questions, Mr. President. First, do you feel good about accomplishing 2 of your major goals of easing government regulation and lowering taxes? Good to know. Supply-side economics were supposed to increase government revenue and stimulate the economy, but your huge military spending and tax reductions have resulted in almost $2 trillion in debt. Do you really think it was worth the trade-off? Does it encourage you that you have contained the welfare state and repealed the social programs of Johnson's Great Society, showing that social spending is impractical for the near future. And there you have it. Compelling words from a compelling man. Thank you, Mr. Reagan. Today we'll be cooking up a fresh batch of conservatism in the courts. Start with a pot full of the United States on a base of Reaganism. Then you add a half cup of conservative Judge Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman in the Supreme Court. Then you sprinkle in some repudiating of the liberal political culture.
No affirmative action or abortion in this soup.
Next, add a tablespoon of Ward's Cove-Packing versus Antonia and Martin versus Bullocks to make it harder to prove any racial discrimination and to argue reverse discrimination. Finally, ensure that Roe versus Wade isn't too potent in your conservatism. Just add a pinch of Webster versus Reproductive Health Services and Planned Parenthood versus Casey.
BAM! And now, you cook for the 1980s, and soon you will have a conservative American soup. Tune in next week when we have Reverend Jerry Falwell to help us cook up some new right values on our show. That's right, no sexual permissiveness, abortion, feminism, or homosexuality in this dish.
Watch as we use old 60 tactics like identity politics and civil disobedience with the televangelists to get our message through the media next week on That's So Reagan Cooking.
Hello, I'm Lost Rancaster, and as you can tell by my hat, I'm a very skilled reporter. So, Mr. Makowski, how do you feel about the current situation between the Democrats and the Republicans?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Ross. Well, the Republicans just lost control of the Senate in November of 1986. The Democrats are attempting to use this lapse in Republican power to push their own agenda. This is seen in their rejection of Reagan's ultra-conservative nominee for the Supreme Court vacancy. They're also using a slander campaign, utilizing the Iran-Contra scandal and alleged unethical behavior by Reagan's family.
What other issues do you foresee affecting the political situation?
Well, a major issue is the economic situation. The federal budget deficit and international trade deficit has grown exponentially. Oil prices have fallen and federal rescue operations, costing over $500 million, were needed to save savings in loan institutions. Mergers, acquisitions, and leveraged buyouts on Wall Street have led many companies into mega debt. Mega debt. The Republican policies regarding the economy are not looking so good, as on October 19th, 1987, the leading stock market index dropped 508 points, the biggest decline in history so far.
Oh my.
This economic downturn might have a major influence on the upcoming elections.
Speaking of the upcoming election, can you give us a general overview of the candidate?
Of course I can. Well, 7 Democrats, nicknamed the 7 Dwarfs by Republicans, are all trying to win the Democratic nomination. Gary Hart had to drop out in May of 1987 due to charges of sexual misconduct. Politicians. Thus, the Democrats nominated Michael Dukakis. The Republicans nominated Reagan's vice president, George H.W. Bush, and he's going to run on the record of Reagan. Dukakis had an opportunity to shine in the last debate by explaining ethical and economic expansion of the Republicans, but he failed miserably and appears to be devoid of all emotion. I predict that the final election will result in a victory for Bush, 426 electoral votes to 111. Back to you in the studio.
This is Jeopardy! Now entering the studio are today's contestants.
A crocodile wrestler from Lincoln, Rhode Island, Ross Lancaster. A professional whistler from New Zealand, Matthew Salemi. And our final contestant is a very special guest. The president himself, Mr. Ronald Reagan.
I'll take presidents with parent-related names for 400, Alex.
Bush worked for this kind of America.
What is a kinder, gentler America?
Correct.
I'll take Tiananmen Square for 400, please.
The protesters at Tiananmen Square had a statue. What was the statue based upon? I'm sorry, Mr. President, that is incorrect. The correct answer was the Statue of Liberty. Back to you, Matt.
Unrest in the USSR for 600.
What agreement between the US and Russia reduced their nuclear missiles by 2/3?
What is the START 2 Accord?
That is correct.
Conclusion of the Cold War for 200, please.
Many sectors of businesses in the US relied upon this type of contract.
What are military contracts?
That is correct.
Demonstrating democracy for 1,000.
Ross? I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Matt, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, that's also incorrect.
It's okay.
Let's see. Reagan get it? Oh my god, he's got it correct! Oh, look at the shock on the other contestants' faces. Oh. Well, that's it for tonight, folks. See you next time on Jeopardy!
And now the serious portion of our show, where I actually attempt to give you real news. In world news, Bush sent airborne troops to capture Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega. A year later, Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein sent forces to overrun oil-rich Kuwait so he could sell the oil for hefty prices. This came after the US and its allies had helped to fortify Saddam and his forces against their mutual enemy Iran. After the attack on Kuwait in August 1990, the UN Security Council called for all necessary means to expel Saddam's troops, fulfilling the founder's dream of using force to preserve international order. 37-day assaults were used against Iraq, leading to strong retaliation by Scud missiles and military and civilian targets. General Norman Schwarzkopf, that's a mouthful, led the American forces against Saddam's stores of biological weapons and tactics of ecological warfare. The U.S. strategy was to relentlessly bomb Iraq and suffocate them on the ground with rushes of troops in Operation Desert Storm, a 4-day assault that caused the Iraqi forces to retreat. 4 days later, Saddam accepted a ceasefire and Kuwait was liberated. However, Saddam remained in power, and the U.S. is becoming more entangled in a web of intractable conflicts.
Well, our final story of the night, George H.W. Bush's policies. He signed the Americans with Disabilities Act to prevent discrimination against physical or mental disabilities.
Bush also signed water projects that protected the environment over agriculture and provided more water for western cities. He also continued to fight affirmative action and abortion. The Civil Rights Act was also begrudgingly signed by Bush. He tried to appoint an African-American judge named Clarence Thomas, who was against affirmative action. The Senate Judiciary Committee, however, at first gave no recommendation on the matter. They were forced to reopen it, however, after Thomas was charged with sexual harassments. After this could not be proved, he was confirmed as the second African-American judge on the Supreme Court. Furthermore, Bush's anti-abortion sentiments have alienated many women who believed in the pro-choice policies. This caused him to lose a good portion of his voting from the Democrats.
During Bush's presidency, the economy was bad from the start. He implemented new taxes to fight deficits, thus breaking his promise to no new taxes. Well, that's it for tonight. Thanks for watching Channel 40 News. Stay classy, APUSH peeps.